Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira at UFC 326. UFC 326 is shaping up to be one of the most compelling events of the year, headlined by a fight that has been years in the making. Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, a rematch filled with unfinished business, legacy implications, and stylistic intrigue that could define both fighters' careers. March 7, 2026. At the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas isn't just another date on the UFC calendar. It's the night two of the sport's most dynamic and well-rounded veterans meet again in a main event for the symbolic BMF Championship. This rematch carries extra weight not only because of the BMF title on the line, but because of the history between these two warriors. Their first fight happened back in August 2015, early in both men's UFC journeys. Holloway won that bout in the first round due to a freak injury suffered by Oliveira, a result that left many fans wanting to see this matchup resolved the right way inside the cage. Fast forward more than a decade, and now both fighters have evolved from promising prospects to highly decorated champions and finishes artists, making this rematch one of the most talked about fights in MMA today. Even before fight night arrives, the narrative around this bout is rich. Holloway, widely known as Blessed, has transformed himself from featherweight legend into a top force at lightweight. After becoming featherweight champ with multiple successful title defenses, proving himself against the very best, Holloway added a historic moment to his legacy by knocking out Justin Gaethje in the final second of their BMF title fight at UFC 300, in a moment that quickly became one of the most iconic finishes in recent UFC history. He then defended that belt successfully against Dustin Poirier, cementing his status as a threat at 155 pounds. What makes Holloway's journey so fascinating is how distinct his evolution has been. He was once seen primarily as a featherweight with exceptional volume striking, cardio, and heart. Now he's a fighter who combines that same ferocity with experienced fight IQ at a bigger weight class, showing improved power, knuckle accumulation, and a willingness to stand in the pocket against elite competition. He's learned timing, distance, and pressure in ways that make him dangerous to virtually anyone in the lightweight division. Meanwhile, Charles Oliveira's story heading into UFC 326 is equally compelling. Oliveira, a former undisputed lightweight champion, is widely regarded as one of the most dangerous finishers in MMA history. He holds the record for most finishes and most submissions in UFC history, and his ability to end fights from anywhere, whether standing or on the ground, has made him one of the most feared opponents in any division. Oliveira did suffer a knockout loss to Ilia Topuria in 2025, but fans and analysts alike saw that defeat not as an end, but as a step in the evolution of his career. Instead of fading into the background, he bounced back by tapping Mateusz Gamrot and reinforcing that his submission arsenal is still elite, and that his strategic approach to fights remains formidable. Oliveira's perspective on the rematch with Holloway is rooted in respect, but also a clear self-belief. He calls himself a hunter, someone who embraces both the stand-up and ground game and sees opportunities where others see danger. This narrative between Holloway's striking evolution and Oliveira's dynamic finishing game sets up one of the most stylistically intriguing main events of 2026. From a tactical perspective, Holloway's volume striking and pace could wear down Oliveira over 5 rounds, especially if he keeps the fight standing and uses his combination punching to fracture Oliveira's defense. Holloway's cardio is legendary. He's shown time and time again that he doesn't slow down even in championship rounds. And that relentless pace can overwhelm opponents who aren't used to sustained pressure. But Oliveira is not a fighter who ever gets counted out easily. His grappling and submission game is world-class, and he has the ability to turn a fight upside down with a single scramble or takedown transition. His takedown ability, while not always overwhelming on paper, becomes dangerous because it brings him into positions where he can hunt for submission opportunities that change the entire trajectory of a fight. The rematch also carries significant psychological elements. Holloway has spoken openly in interviews about wanting a defining moment that goes beyond just another title defense. He's expressed interest in creating another iconic BMF moment, suggesting scenarios where he could not only beat Oliveira, but perhaps even test his own grappling or find a finish in a way that surprises fans and critics alike. Say that mindset, not just winning but dominating in style, adds layers of narrative intrigue leading up to the fight. The venue and timing add to the spectacle. UFC 326 is set for March 7th, 2026, at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, a place that has seen some of the biggest nights in combat sports history. The card itself is stacked with exciting fights, but the spotlight will inevitably be on Holloway and Oliveira when they step into the octagon for 5 rounds of BMF championship rules. The event will be broadcast live on Paramount+ and is expected to draw millions of viewers around the world, reflecting how high the anticipation has grown. From a fan perspective, this fight also represents something deeper than belts or rankings. It's about unfinished business, evolving skill sets, and legacy contention. 11 years ago, neither fighter was the seasoned force they are today. Holloway was an up-and-coming featherweight with explosive volume. Oliveira was a promising finisher who hadn't yet mastered the full breadth of his skill set. The reactions among hardcore fight fans reflect just how compelling this matchup is. On forums and social platforms, debates rage about how Oliveira's grappling will influence his path to victory versus how Holloway's striking pace will dominate rounds. These aren't casual predictions. They're in-depth analyses by fighters, coaches, and experienced fans trying to parse how 5 rounds of elite MMA might play out when 2 very different champions collide. There's also a deeper layer to the fan debates, where some see Oliveira's submission expertise as the X factor that could neutralize Holloway's striking advantage, and while others believe Holloway's cardio and volume will simply overwhelm Oliveira's offense over time. Either way, this is not a fight you can chalk up to a dull technical matchup. This is a fight that demands attention not just for what might happen, but for how it could happen. As fight night draws closer, both camps will continue to drop interviews, training clips, and behind-the-scenes footage showcasing their preparation. Holloway's evolution in nutrition, recovery, and fight IQ has become part of his identity as a complete mixed martial artist, while Oliveira's mindset as a seasoned hunter looking for the perfect opening continues to fuel intrigue. These public narratives feed into the anticipation, adding tension and expectation for how this fight will unfold when the cage doors close. UFC 326 is not just another date on the schedule. It's a moment where 2 distinct MMA legacies intersect. Holloway's journey from featherweight legend to lightweight BMF champion reflects determination, adaptation, and strategic evolution. Oliveira's path from a record-setting finisher to a poised veteran threat illustrates resilience, technical depth, and finishing instinct. When these forces collide, the result won't just be another 5 rounds of action. It will tell us something meaningful about who they are as fighters and how their legacies are being written in real time. If you're pumped for UFC 326 as much as we are, make sure you hit like on the video, subscribe for all the latest fight analysis and updates, and drop a comment with your prediction: Max Holloway or Charles Oliveira? Who walks out on March 7th with the BMF belt raised high?